All right, what's up, party people? Quick sound check here in all three rooms: the YouTube, the MTT room, and the Mastery. Believe they call that the old triple broadcast. All right, what's up, Bruce? Yep, time to party. What's up, Mirza? Hello, Anil. Okay, cool. Think we are good to go. Good to go. But all right, guys, I'm here for one thing and one thing only. If you're with me, show of hands here, and that'd be a big, whopping breakout in Tesla. And I kind of think she wants to go for it. Right, of course, you have that big, beautiful 3-day squeeze here. If you guys go look at the 15-minute Tesla, right, the gap up, the chop, and a little bit of a prolonged 15-minute squeeze. The thing I'm watching here, and not to spoil the surprise, the bigger issue I think is the overall market. Everything around and behind Tesla. But for continuation off that pop, if they can get the MACD shift here on the 15-minute, could take that and try to break it out. But yeah, so for that one, together in both rooms, we have the January 500 call. And I'll show you guys the rankings here in a second. Everything about Tesla by itself, to me, can make for a really big trade. But then the S&Ps, you put them into, take the indexes into consideration, the overall picture. That's where I think things have, leave a lot to be desired. But for the January 500 calls, it might be the same trade. It might be a different trade. Where I would like to jump in and buy a bit more of it would be on that green arrow off the 15-minute. So catch it on the gap up, the chop, 15-minute squeeze. If they can get the momentum better, get the 15 points. Again, maybe not the January 500 call, but I think you got to add a little exposure at that point. So I'm loving Tesla, and off of the 2-hour time frame, I had bought a few different sets of calls back on Friday, and then took that off on the pop yesterday and parlayed that into a few different sets of calls. So got some skin in the game here on Tesla. But all right, so the good, the bad, and the problematic. Pretty sure last Monday we had a rating of market bullish. So that meant last week you had better rankings on the indexes, the Big 10 basket, your collective sectors. And then I believe by Friday's close, we had dropped down to neutral bullish. So at that point, things are collectively still bullish, not as strong. And now here we are all the way back to neutral, which to me is a very clear sign of it's not a great market for big aggressive trading. Even though here's Tesla at 97% of its best score, that all by itself says, yeah, jump in and back up the dump truck. Picture around it, not so much. So we have downgraded to a neutral market. To me, better for day trading, doing the futures. A little bit more patience on the swing side, and then breaking it down. So a bit of a drop off here on the indexes, and they have a collective 37% of their best score. That by itself not bad. It is all Dow Jones RSP. The Great Dow 30 at 63%, the RSP at 51, the IWM at 47, and then Mama and Papa market, S&P's at 22, the QQQ at 4. QQQ to 4, I don't think makes for a great market. So yeah, bit of a drop off there. No signs of progress for the Q-tip. And then for the sectors here, got a couple of stinkers that'd be real estate, Bitcoin, the energy, utilities, Kathy Woods, and then, which I don't love here, the XLK is back down to a -9. The SMH back here, very neutral at 13. Same thing I showed you guys back on Monday. The strongest names are not the most heavily weighted. The most heavily weighted names, a few of them, they're in the worst shape. So leadership is your silver, gold, XLY, financials, industrials, and materials. I don't think good enough for the S&Ps back into, an all-time high or a path in the 7,000. So there are the issues. The things that matter are not helping out. And weighting-wise, the things that are trying to help out, industrials, financials, gold, weighting-wise, they don't matter. The big dogs ain't helping. And then breaking down the big dogs, little dogs right now, not a good looking basket. So collectively, we're at -3%. I think September was an easy market. I think October was an easy market. September, October, the Big Ten basket had like positive 60, 70, 80, not a -4. Netflix in last place at -61. Microsoft a -49. We took our loss in Amazon yesterday, a -37, and then Nvidia, the big squeeze Nvidia, that fades back to a -32. So therefore, you guys can see why I like Tesla. Tesla's 97, and your second strongest is Google with a 27. So when there's a 70% difference in first place and second place, they're not making things too easy. It's a bit of a one-trick pony. And then we can look up here at the top bull. In like any market, you can find things that look good. Do they matter? You've got UAL. I think that's what. I'm not even sure what that is. You got BBIO, Twilio, Capital One Financial, Monster Beverage, the sugared caffeine, Roku, Southwest Airlines, and Tesla. Weighting wise in the S&Ps, QQ, XLK, etc. The only one that really matters here is Tesla. Now what can happen? Tesla falls apart tomorrow. That has a negative carryover to Twilio, Roku, all the others. Caught up in the crossfire. And then if you go to the main list here, what would actually look decent? Not named Tesla. Let's go to my filters, and then we can try to look here. Try that again. All right, a couple of things that would look good. Marriott and Bank of America. Took our profit on that one on Monday. A little bit of that Chuck Schwab. Palantir, Yum, Travelers, McDonald's, American Express. Believe LVS is Live Nation and CCEP. And give them credit, they all look good, but these aren't your big tech, big chip, big market leading names. Real quick, I'll go look at a few. Maybe, if anything, Palantir. Couple squeezes, any trade here on Palantir. 15-minute, 30-minute. All right, we'll check real quick. Now, can we find a squeeze with a green arrow? Would be the goal. No green arrow on the weekly, no green arrow on the 3-day squeeze, no green arrow on... Well, there is no 2-day squeeze. What about a daily or maybe a 4-hour? I like it. It ranks out pretty good. But we got to get the pitch. The green arrow pitch. All right, Palantir we can keep an eye on, and then took profit on Bank of America on Monday. And for now, I am content with the exit. And then what about maybe... Problem is, guys, I'm not going to trade any of these. Maybe Palantir, maybe Bank of America. But if the best thing I have is McDonald's, I think I might rather go walk the pup. Mickey D's, couple of squeezes here. Could work. I'd rather be patient and try to buy more Tesla. But yeah, more of the theme from over the weekend, more of the theme for Monday. The things that look the best. They are not your leaders. I heavily weighted. Your heavily weighted leaders are leaving a lot to be desired, with the exception of one. So yeah, guys, the tricky action continues. And I'm glad I got the framework in place to say, hey, it's not and even though every fiber of my being wants it to be, I'm not back in September, not back in October. That looked more like, let's go to September. And here can be the tough thing about trading. I think the best setup in the entire market is the 2-day and the 3-day squeeze on Tesla. And part of that bias could be the recent or the previous 2-day, 3-day squeeze. Right, big time breakout, crazy push. We had some great profits back there. It's the same exact moment in time. Right? Compression off the squeeze, 15 points, all the pretty colors. The difference was if you look at the dashboard back in September, everything around Tesla was much better. All right, here's your mid-September rankings. Market bullish, QQQ in its rightful spot. Q's in first place, S&P's in second, XLY's in first place, better SMH, better XLK. Big 10 basket was a positive 60. You have the same exact setup we have right now. Very different market. So I want to jump in. I want to buy a lot of it, but then I take 2.5 seconds to look at the QQQ, and the desire quickly fades off. So till things change on the swing side of things, we can keep on taking shots. I think it's really a conversation of sizing. Or if the QQQ 3-day squeeze looked exactly like the 3-day squeeze on Tesla, I can only speak for myself. I have to make that a bigger than average trade. I've got the trigger, I've got the setup, I've got the rankings, relative strength, I got the alignment. We got the goods. And then making things even trickier, and this makes for neutral scores, combination of bullish on bigger time frames and bearish on lower time frames. Just kind of ties my hands. Where I look at a QQQ 3-day squeeze, till things change, I can only want to buy it. Right above the 21 EMA buy zone, good structure, 11 points out of 15. It's more bullish than bearish. Would love to buy that. Would love to call for a path into QQQ 650. And then I look at the Qs on a 1-hour time frame. It's just kind of nasty. Bear structure, broken trend, negative 13. So yeah, all the things make it a tougher market than what I think we had back in September, October. But all right, going through a few of the key names here, and again, rankings-wise, let's go back to the current date. Anything other than Tesla. All right, so Google would be in, and my socks are firmly on my feet. Google would be in second place at 27. All right, not quite as good as 97. Let's go look at Google. Yeah, it's not bad, not great. It's just there. 8 points out of 15 on the daily. It's a little bit more bullish than bearish. But your 30-minute time frame's all out bearish. Broken structure, MACD below 0, negatively stacked EMAs. And they walk it down, they rally it back up. They walk it down, they pop it back up. And they spank it again, pop it back up, and the spankings continue. Do I like the Google weekly? Definitely. 15-minute, 30-minute sell signal says I can't jump in and buy it now. So Google for me would be a no-go, and then in third place would be Apple. And they're getting lamer the lower we go. Apple on a 15-minute and a 2-day squeeze. We had a green arrow. We lost our green arrow. Therefore, we keep it moving. After Apple, we can jump into Meta, TSM, and Broadcom. Then things get a little bit more negative from there. All right, the one they call Meta. Yeah, the beating shall continue until morale improves. All right, so the one they call Meta. Have you ever Meta? All right, couple squeezes here. Handful of squeezes. 15-minute, 30-minute, a 1-hour, a 2-hour, and a 4-hour. Now, would any be of the green arrow variation? Not on the 4. No go on the 4. -6 on the 2-hour. 1-hour squeeze. All right, we have a contender. We got a live one. 30-minute squeeze would fit the bill. Above the buy zone, 21 above the 50, stacked EMAs. We check for the 15 points. We have all 15, all the green labels. All of that I would like. A little bit of the focus of the webinar tonight. If I was going to make it all about that one stock, that one time frame, I look at that and think that's a great trade. Could be a good trade. But I look at a bigger time frame and am I in a nice uptrend? Well, no, not really. Neutral structure, -4. And then rankings wise, is that a 30-minute squeeze in the or one of the strongest names off the board? And right now, Meta has a total of 13 points out of a possible 120. It's not really all that good. I've got my biases, got my favorites, but Capital One Financial, Monster Beverage, Roku, TKO, Southwest Airlines, Twilio, BBIO, they all grade out way better. Perfect time to take that 30-minute squeeze. Maybe something more like Roku, where a bigger picture top to bottom, everything's pretty bullish. All right, so for Roku, by comparison, yeah, so if I could get a green arrow on that 30-minute, that one I prefer with the overall better ranking. Meta could work. It comes with, I think, in the short term, maybe a little bit more baggage. Although credit to are looking pretty sharp. All right, Meta, good looking 30-minute, and then TSM, Broadcom, NVIDIA. And we can pass over Amazon, Microsoft, and Netflix because ain't got nothing there. All right, so I believe we got a couple, maybe a weekly and a 3-day for TSM. Have been patiently waiting to buy it, but never got the green arrow for a trigger. And they pump it. Here comes Broadcom. It looks like a breakout. It feels like a breakout. Everything lined up for a breakout except that shift down here in momentum. Never got the MACD back above 0. Never got the green arrow. Therefore, never jumped into the trade. I think it holds up pretty good here, though. 13 points is bullish, good structure. The key would just be give it a couple of weeks. Get the MACD shift, get a green arrow like back here. Could be a good one. All right, and then Broadcom. Broadcom took a bit of a whooping after earnings. These things can happen, but the weekly squeeze took a bit of a whooping. Maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months down the road. Pullback could be a pretty good gift here. Till things change, you gap down and flush into the context of a brand new weekly squeeze, cranking out the bright green arrow, the structure, all the fixins, and the only problem is that's all crazy bullish, and then 1 hour Broadcom is almost the opposite. That can make for what? You're bullish on the weekly, you are bearish on the 1 hour, bullish on the 3-day squeeze, bearish on the 15-minute. That tug of war top to bottom makes for a neutral -7. We could day trade it, we can scalp it. Big aggressive swing position, -7 is not going to cut it. All right, and then the one I think could either make or break the market, so no pressure, but NVIDIA. And right on cue, she's got sketchy looking 1 hour squeeze. But all right, so for NVIDIA off the weekly, being a broken record, a lot of things look the same though. Off that bigger time frame, the weekly squeeze, I maybe can't jump in and buy it yet. I don't have a fresh green arrow. But off the ranking system, I can't be bearish. 12 points out of 15, good structure, good trend. Give me another 3 points here. I want to jump in and buy it. And ideally on a bigger time frame, jump in and buy it with some decent size. That leans bullish. And then 4 hour, 2 hour, hourly NVIDIA, they strongly suggest you don't jump in and buy the weekly squeeze just yet. But give it a couple of weeks. If they were to break it short, and let's just say, sake of conversation, that turns NVIDIA into a $155 stock. I only have to imagine not going to be a great thing for most things on the board. Now, if we don't do that, and they can fight and they can scratch, and I think it'll take a bit, but if they can eventually work a squeeze back to the upside, great thing for the market. So I don't have a direct trade idea for you on that one, but I think as far as one gauge of the oil market, big piece of the puzzle. All right, Tesla's sniffing back into that 480 level. Guys, it's got that breakout look in its eyes. It just needs a little bit more of a big green thumbs up from the market. But all right, easy work there, guys. I like Tesla. And I'm long right now, so maybe a little bit of bias. But objectively, it grades out way better than a lot of things here on the board. Better than every Big Ten stock, better than the indexes, better than every sector ETF. Only getting beaten out by UAL and EXPE. All right, what else can I show you guys here? Let's go maybe futures-wise. And that lack of alignment continues on the futures. So let me show you a bigger squeeze here on the S&P futures. And look at the weekly. Weekly chart it's a top shelf weekly. But all right, S&P futures off the 3-day squeeze. And if I keep the opinion out of it, I keep the emotion out of it, and just what does my scoring system tell me? 13 points to the 15, good structure, good trend. It's mostly bullish. 2 more points here should be in good shape for a nice breakout. Can only buy that, and then I look at maybe 30-minute S&P futures, and the thing currently calls for a nice short. So there, my good friends, is my current dilemma. Index-wise, bullish on bigger time frames, bearish on lower time frames. Leadership from things that matter is a little bit non-existent, and leadership in things that don't matter is very plentiful. And again, that can work. Bank of America is maybe not. It's on your big tech, Big Mac 7 name. But we caught a trade there into Monday, fitting the theme of the index. Banks had a good Dow Jones behind them. Coming into this week, behind Bank of America, you had leadership and relative strength in the XLF basket. Right, that showed up for work. And then Goldman, Morgan Stanley, again, fit that theme of index sector stock. I like that game. I like that game in these guys. But all right, guys, any questions? I'm here for it. Anything y'all want to look at, any tickers, any chart requests, got you covered. But yeah, as far as active trades, my hands are a little bit tied for now. But that means that I get the actionable signal, I can jump in and hit it that much harder. All right, NVIDIA, what you got, big boy? All of that being said, give me another 20 in the Friday. Give me another 2 days of Tesla has the weight of the Big Ten on its shoulders. All right, 15-minute squeeze here. Keyword being should. That should be the ticket for another nice push here. The gap, the chop, the compression, all the drama, all the suspense, all the energy being built up. The structure says let's break out. The trend of the 15-minute would say let's break out. Momentum not on board yet. Get the MACD shift, pump it up, and could be it. 5-minute. But yeah, that'll be the game plan on that one. We will keep the January 500 calls for now, and then if we do get a green arrow on the 15-minute, that shall be the additional entry. But otherwise, guys, nothing for you really on a Google, an Apple, a Netflix, NVIDIA, TSM. Meta, I would like on a 30-minute, but that is the best I've got for you. All right, 15-minute QQQ squeeze. And about the only thing the Bulls have in their favor here is they're trying to work that positive MACD shift. It's a little ammo. All right, JMMY looking for a JP Morgan chart. Okay, check the rankings. Where does JP fall? JP. JP Morgan would be at 64% of its strongest, most bullish, in your face explosive score. Pretty good. Okay, so I take that and then I should go back to my dashboard. I'm skipping some steps here. All right, if I like JP Morgan, I would ideally want to like the entire financial basket. Is JP a good looking name is it a good looking stock in a good looking group, or is it more of a lone wolf? Tesla's kind of that lone wolf. All right, for that, we're going to go here to the home page, and where are the financials? Financials are in 1, 2, 3. Yeah, pretty good. Top 4 at 76. All right, so it has a good ranking. It's in a good group, and now we find a squeeze. And we can't take it if we don't get a green arrow. So no green arrow off the weekly. And then they haven't gotten one here on the 3-day squeeze, and they haven't gotten one yet on the 2-day squeeze. So for me, what came together in Bank of America last week was, again, Dow Jones. So you have a little relative strength off the index, relative strength off the XLF, and then for Bank of America, handful of really good-looking squeezes. There's a few left, but we jumped in, caught it primarily here on the 4-hour. All right, so on that 4-hour time frame, now you have a stock building up energy, trying to gear up for a good directional move, with a good index behind it in a really strong sector. Get a squeeze mix for good repeatable process. All right, any of that in JP Morgan? Not yet. I think one you definitely want to keep an eye on. Believe even off the XLF, there should be a few left. Yeah, I mean, there's the thing. They maybe have to pull back for a bit. But that big weekly squeeze here on the XLF, if they ever were to break it long, that would suggest they've got room to go. All right, here's Tesla at 480. This is where legends are made, they tell me. Yeah, can't quite get that MACD shift. And what can happen is they're in a big 15-minute squeeze, no momentum for a breakout, and they try to break it out. They try. If they keep on trying and failing, and they can't get that turn off the MACD, eventually the squeeze can turn and break short. So best case is they do go and get the Momo shift. All right, Meta looking pretty sharp here. Tesla, Netflix, Roku, Broadcom, Nvidia, Microsoft, all with a bit of the green. And then Apple down a bit, Amazon down a bit. Yeah, a little bit of everything. Q's trade just under 610. Cash S&P's trade 67.80. All right, y'all keep on working through here. Yeah, my pleasure. And Joe for the Big Apple. Hold that thought, Joe. All right, let me put an alert at a high a day. Take off the top, then we'll pay attention. All right, Apple off the rankings. Apple is good way to put it at 19% of its best score. If Apple was at its absolute strongest, it would have 120 points. Right now, it has 23. Is it better than Netflix? Yeah, it's a lot better. Netflix has a negative 71. Is it better than Tesla? No. Does it rank out better than any of these names up here? No. Does it rank out better than the Dow Jones, RSP, IWM, Silver, Gold, XLY, Financials, Industrials? And again, I think a big part of that repeatable process is trying to be as picky as possible. Avoid things that aren't the best on your board. Whether you have a dashboard or whatever your scoring system might be. So looking at Apple here, yeah, for me, a lack of edge for a big long or a big short. Good way to put it. I don't see anything here at the moment that I could do 100 times in a row and have a lot of conviction after that 100th trade, I'm going to be net profitable. The 3-day squeeze on Tesla, very different feeling. If I can get that in the right market 25, 50, 100 times in a row, I think it's tough to not make money. So we can give Apple credit. It holds up better than holds up better than a lot of its peers. But yeah, little neutral here. Your next big move should very likely be off that 2-day squeeze. But more of that theme. The bigger time frame is it leans pretty heavily bullish. And then we look down to maybe a 1-hour Apple. And then your lower time frame leans a lot more bearish. And that makes for the short-term tug of war. Keep on scrolling through here. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, Dusty Diamond. And I think probabilities-wise, we have everything but the market behind it. And look, that's where you can have your squeezes, your buy triggers, all the structure. You can have the 500 things. If you have a bad QQQ, bad S&P, and look, bad could just mean the Qs are doing a lot of nothing. They're doing a little bit more here than a lot of nothing, of course. But that can take the missing alignment. That can take your squeeze, your indicators, and sometimes kind of toss them out the window. But to our benefit, at least try to acknowledge that. This thing looks like the squeeze dreams are made of, and I don't have the alignment around it. I can take it. I'm long Tesla. I want more of it. I'm going to get more of it. But if I had a better QQQ, better S&Ps, better NVIDIA, Google, Amazon, if I was back in September, October, I'd be looking to buy like 5, maybe 10 times more. Maybe 5 times. Let's be modest here. We shall soon find out, guys. And if they can find a bottom anywhere down near these recent lows, it won't be an overnight process, but they can begin the process of eventually trying to fire that big squeeze down here long. And then every game gets easier. Day trading, scalping, swing trading, 1-hour squeezes, 15-minute, 30-minute. If the Qs are boogieing like that, you get the easy stuff. Okay, Tesla trades 480. A little bit more of a pop here in Meta into 656. Netflix, NVIDIA, Microsoft. All right, keep on going through the chat. But yeah, I'm with you. We'll keep an eye on it. Thoughts on December 19th, 68.15, 68.20 call debit. All right, that'd be for what? Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. All right, so S&Ps. 68.15, 68.20. A little bit out the money, nothing too crazy. I of course love the pop off the 50. Anybody getting short down there, they're going to feel a little pressure already. But anything for a good buy trigger, a good turn for a good trigger for a reversal. I like the spot as far as looking for a long. But as far as a trigger to play the long, I don't have that just yet. And that could be something as simple as a fresh 5-minute buy trigger, fresh 15-minute buy trigger. Again, I like the level. The one thing that would have me a little bit cautious is current 15-minute squeeze. Bear structure, bear momentum, and negative 15. But the flip side of that could be if they don't break it short, they turn it and pump it and actually fire that long. If they can get it and keep it back above 68, there should be room for a little bit of a bid there. But yeah, simple answer for me is it's a little too early. Given the combination of I like it on bigger time frames for a long, and I don't have a lower time frame buy trigger to do it now. The here and the now. Yeah, Matthew, great question. So let's go back to the SPX call butterfly. The call butterfly. To answer your question, my plan is just being that I sized to accept the max loss, I'm going to keep it and let it expire worthless. I don't imagine we end up at 7,000 by Friday. Stranger things have happened. But if anything, a good example of how a couple of big, heavily weighted names can quickly rain on your parade. All right, here comes the S&Ps. They get the picture-perfect 4-hour squeeze. Checking every box, all the bells and whistles, the structure of the entry. I'm going to take that pretty much every time I get it. But the absolute best time to take that 4-hour squeeze, and I think, forget the butterfly. When do I do that with a bit more aggressiveness, out the money calls, bigger size? It'd be finding that same 4-hour squeeze in a better market. Where we're kind of looking at it last week saying, all right, the S&Ps look perfect, and the Qs are trying, they're popping a bit, they're working on getting better, but we're not back in September, October. We can't look at our board and wow, everything big tech, big chip is perfect scores, crazy bullish. Fish are jumping in the boat. So why do I take it back here with a butterfly? Yeah, more of a cheap shot, good asymmetric risk reward, and if things do quickly fall apart, not sweating the risk. Where if everything around the S&Ps, the QQQ, the SMH, XLK, the Big Ten names, if they looked just like that on the 4-hour, I'm buying the out the money calls with size. And this can still happen. You got the indexes lined up, all the sectors, all the key names, everything lined up, and doesn't mean the squeeze works. But in that case, you do have a bit more edge in your favor. All right, guys, 20 minutes on the shot clock. Meta hanging 655-ish. Tesla trades 480. I'm looking for meaningful signs of return. They are tough to find. Although QQQ 5-minute here. I did a little session last night on reversals. And the three things I like for reversals are the 21 EMA 50 cross. So notice back here you have your negative cross, right? 21 EMA, your blue line, or 21 EMA, the white line, and the 50 SMA being the blue line. Right, you get the negative cross, the death cross back here. It's just one piece of the puzzle, but that can keep you in more of that downtrend. So for the first time, it looks like maybe this entire week. Yeah, for the first time since Friday's close, we have the positive cross. The golden cross, 21 EMA back above the 50. Again, not the end all be all, but that can get you out of the flush, rally back to resistance, get rejected, roll over, rally back, roll over. That can help get you out of that dynamic. And then momentum, we're looking down here at the MACD. That is in a bullish orientation. Okay, so now off the MACD shift and the 21 EMA 50 SMA cross, for a level to anchor to, we can go grab the ATR trailing stop line. And I'm going to make it purple. We'll do magenta. Okay, so the third thing here to maybe even want to jump in and call for a quick pop. They've got the momentum piece of it. They have the 21 EMA back above the 50 piece of it. And now that pink line there, that being the ATR trailing stop. What you would want to look for now is they get it and they keep it above that pink line. Positive shift in momentum, positive shift in your structure, positive shift of the trailing stop. At that point, if you like the idea of a move higher, you jump in, you buy it, and you trigger your stop under the pink line. Let's actually look for a day trade here. 25, maybe 15 minutes left. We shall look for a day trade off the 5-minute. And that can be taken through, NASDAQ futures contracts. You can buy shares of QQQ. Different ways to play it. But all right, while I'm watching that, keep on going through a few of the chats here. No, yeah, Tesla's got a handful. We'll see if she wants to use them. Hey, what's up, Fly Guy on YouTube? Good to see you, my friend. You're in cash. Yeah. To be completely honest, if not for Tesla, to me, this says be in cash. At least things I like to trade. All right, here comes 282-ish on Tesla. All right, and now we're getting the blue arrow. So that tells us we haven't gotten the MACD shift yet. But they're really working on it. You have the structure for a breakout, the trend for a breakout, the squeeze for a breakout. Here's our first good heads up. We might get that MACD shift. Then in most cases, they should get a decent pump going. All right, let me watch this for a couple of minutes here, guys. I got some invested interest in this one. And now if the QQQ could sober up, makes Tesla's job that much easier. And we're like 3 to 3.5% off that big 500 level. It's a decent day of work for Tesla with a good market behind it. I keep using the word good. And of course, a good, strong market behind it really, really helps. For a name like Tesla, this kind of ranking, these kinds of setups, even if we just had a stable market behind it, that might be enough. If the Qs can find a bottom and chill around, 610, 612, that might be enough. They break back down, they take out the lows. No bueno. All right, coming up on the 485 level. And then above that, we are $15 from the promised land. Here, I think, is the actual target. Just from Keltner channel extension point of view. And yeah, I imagine they get to 500 to have a little initial friction, possibly. But I think our actual target should be closer to 515, 520. It's what these bigger time frame squeezes tend to want to do. Rally off your 21 EMA, end up about 2.5 to maybe 3 ATR above it. Off the 3-day squeeze, currently that'd be about 520. And even that's about 6 or 7% above the current price. We can't forget we had a great market behind it back here, but the 3-day squeeze in September gave you a very quick 35 to 40. About a quarter of that will get us into that upside extension. All right, better action there. Meta looking pretty sharp. Qs are still red, albeit a little bit less red. S&Ps trade 86, Dow Jones down, IWM down. Hey, get a few more of these guys on board. Amazon get a little bid going, Nvidia getting the bid going. If they could get a bid going, good for the market. Now, they might go and fire it and actually not print the trigger. That we can live with. If the Qs are decent tomorrow, I think we're going to get a nice push. And at that point, we're back in the game on the 500 call for January. But yeah, got to find a spot for more of it. With patience and discipline. Hey, what's up, Quan? Yeah, so everything's the same on TradingView with the exception of these watchlist columns, which unfortunately for now are just a thinkorswim only thing. Would like for that to change, but that's in TradingView's hands. But yeah, the indicators, the squeeze histogram, the labels, etc. That all looks pretty much the same over on TradingView. And then, what's up, Robert? How are you? Happy holidays. Do I ever look at volume, especially on breakouts? Yeah, believe it or not, I never look at volume. And I'm not saying that's the proper answer or the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek. I think you can make just about anything work in trading. If you've got your 3, 4, 5 things, you have your things, and you don't pay attention to anything else. And what I mean by that is I've never really paid attention to momentum or volume rather, but the few things I have paid attention to, they've made for that repeatable process. And I know a lot of traders, a few here on the roster, volume is a part of that. But for me, something I never really took into consideration. What one part of it might be a game I used to play was I'm going to find a squeeze and I'm going to do nothing until I see above average volume. And that would get my goofy ass, that would get me, now I'm buying that Tesla 3-day squeeze at 425. The thing already rallied a good, 30, 40, 50 points. Not saying it's always the case, but I think I ran into that, time and time again. All right, y'all, 10-minute countdown here. Tesla trades 485-ish. Meta trades 657. Qs are comfy for now at 610, and the S&Ps trade 67.87. Another question we have to answer is, can we buy more of that one on a 15-minute? God, what a good-looking 3-day squeeze. Jeez. It don't get much better than that. And that does not and will never mean it has to work. But man, is that pretty. All right, and then we also have the April longs over in Qualcomm. Let's go look at Qualcomm. The big Q. Yeah, I like it. I don't think you have to be in a big rush. Be in a big rush to jump in and buy more of it. That's not really a Qualcomm thing right now, more of a market thing. But let's go take a peek at the monthly. Yeah, again, they at the top here, they had the green arrow, and they done lost it. What about the weekly? Great looking weekly squeeze that does have a green arrow. I do want to buy more of it, not in the context of the basket of names at TSM or Qualcomm rather is a little bit more linked to has a -1. Like that to me is literally nothing to work with, except that guy. All right, 485 here on the Tesla. She's creeping a bit higher. Now you really want to get them having you really want to see them get the MACD shift here off that 15. What can happen is they go for the breakout, they push the price up, they don't get that supportive momentum, and it can be a little trappy. They fail to break out and back to the cocoon of the 15-minute squeeze. What's a lot cooler is a rapid $15 rally from here. Says anybody currently long some Tesla? All right, guys. So I'm gonna keep on watching, try to find a good spot for us. If we don't get another spot to, in the short term here, jump in and buy more. If they get to 500, we'll find out what's up there at 500. But through that, target is about 15, $20 higher. We're here for all that. But all right, guys, any last minute questions, get them in the chat here. And then I've got to let you guys go for the close. I got to go jump on a webinar practice. And then we have the 8 o'clock webinar tonight, or 7 o'clock Central. So come hang out. It'll be a good time. We'll have some laughs at my expense. I'll show you guys some good stuff. And yeah, I think if you haven't really paid attention to what we're doing here on the scorecard, the dashboard, I think you're really gonna love it. To kind of summarize, this saves me from myself. Because the voice in my head says all day long, go put the entire account into out the money Tesla calls. And I've been a little dramatic, but everything that I want to do is just taking that one name, taking that one setup, getting more and more aggressive, which I think could work out really good. But there's a time and a place for that, the 80-20 rule. Tesla's in the 20% of the time. Great structure, big squeezes, gearing up for a bigger than expected move. And my QQQ is stuck in the 80% of the time kind of action. Tricky. And then Meta having a pretty good afternoon here off the 30-minute. Broadcom going green. Give it a few weeks, guys. I think Broadcom could be a nice one. It's just, can the picture down here match a picture on the weekly? It is a bullish one. Roku, nothing to do there at the moment. NVIDIA. We like a green NVIDIA. Would like to think this could be one of our next big trades. In the works, coming up the pipeline. And a weekly squeeze can definitely make for that. Gotta wait for the triggers, and then Google. A little choppy under the mean. Amazon we bailed on yesterday, and I like the bail. Bailed on Amazon. And all right, guys, I will just about do it for that session. Go through the chat here one more time. Yeah, it can simpler Tesla. It can feel that way sometimes. And if that's based on things that matter, we never want to be in here saying, hey guys, I think this and I feel that, and I've got these emotions and all these warm and fuzzies. We have to say, no, based on things that matter, structure, Tesla's better than everything. Right now it does. Does not mean it works. Could break out tomorrow, could fail tomorrow. In the context of this kind of tricky neutral market, where do I want to have some exposure? I don't want to call for a bottom in Netflix. I don't want to call for a bottom in Amazon. I don't want to call for a turn higher in NVIDIA. So till things change, that'll be the favorite for now. We don't pick the favorites. The dashboard does. But all right, guys, I'll tell you what. I will cut you loose here a couple of minutes early, give you a quick little coffee break, go pet your dog, gear up here for the close. And yeah, thank you again. Hope y'all found it helpful. I will be in touch here on the Tesla trade. 15-minute looking a bit more like it wants to pop sooner rather than later. But I'll be in touch on that one. We have the Jan 500 calls. And yeah, come on, hang out tonight. Should be a good time. Won't keep you for too long. But otherwise, guys, thank you again. Give you a little coffee break here and hope to see you later. Adios.